conversation that is happening around AI is kind of mixed reviews for me. And coming from me, an author, you might think that I am on the side of we should never be using AI and it is stealing jobs and it is taking away creativity from things that are meant to be a human art and emotional experience. But honestly, that's not quite my opinion. But I do see where that type of stance comes from. Personally, I think AI is, it's sticking around. It's here. It's not like everyone is going to recall their AI programs and make it just disappear. So I'm kind of more on the side of I don't want to fully embrace it and feed AI all of my writing and tell it to give me a book blurb or write a similar book. But I am definitely more on the side of we can use AI as long as it's used ethically or as ethically as possible to our knowledge. And that we can use it as a tool to actually enhance our creativity and our writing. So as an author, I'm going to tell you today 5 different ways that you could use AI to enhance your writing and your creativity without even giving it anything you've written. Hi, I'm Lindsey, and I am a creative entrepreneur trying to help other entrepreneurs monetize and market their creative passions into businesses. So I'm just going to talk over some of the ways that I would use AI if I didn't want to feed it any of my writing. So we can get right into that. I am just going to pop over to my computer and I'll kind of show you the ChatGPT screen as well as what prompts I'm putting in and just kind of talk through my reasoning for it. Okay, I'm back. I'm here with ChatGPT 3.5. I'm going to show you 3.5, which is free. So for the first thing, if we're coming up with a new story, we want character names. And I'm just going to come up with something off the top of my head and say, give me 5 character names for a goddess of the sea inspired by Celtic lore. Unique names, and we'll see what it does. Okay, so it gave some names, and that I think was kind of helpful. I like Morvana, it sounds like it's kind of like Morgana, like Selkie. I wouldn't know how to say these things. So another thing that you can do is even say, give me a pronunciation guide, give me a phonetic pronunciation guide. So please write a phonetic pronunciation guide. We're gonna ignore me not spelling things correctly. And this is something that you could do with words that you've made up, with words that exist that might be really hard to say. Anything that you want to put in a pronunciation guide in a fantasy book or just a fiction book in general. So yeah, I really like that idea of having it give you these pronunciations because it makes it so much easier and consistent. And you can add that to your book Bible later. If you don't know what a book Bible is, let me know. I can make a video on that. I have a very big document, a very big book Bible. Another thing that I would use ChatGPT for is asking it different ways that you could convey an emotion, because as writers, sometimes it's hard to visualize or just come up with different ways to say similar things. So one thing I would do is maybe if you're having characters in a scene and someone's trying to lie, this is just all off the top of my head. Someone's trying to lie. Give me 3 ways that you could show in a conversation that someone is trying to lie to the other person. You can write these in such different ways, but avoiding eye contact, defensive behavior, and then if I like defensive behavior, but I'm I don't really know exactly what that would look like other than maybe you're crossing your arms and maybe they already did that, or you just don't want to be repetitive. So we can ask it to give 5 ways to show defensive behavior in this type of conversation. And ChatGPT kind of gives a little bit more information. So I think it's really helpful instead of going on Google. It's just all right here. And then you can go back in your chat too and say oh, why was I asking about defensive behaviors? Oh yeah, they were lying to this other person in the conversation. And I think it's just helpful to have it all right there. And if you want to take this one step further with the emotions and you're I don't know how to show that they're deflecting in a novel. It's unless you've read something where you're you kind of lock it in, sometimes you just don't know how to say those things. And I'm not saying to copy and paste these things. Here's what I would do. Give me 5 first person past POV, because that's just a style I prefer writing in. Descriptions of a character deflecting in a conversation. So that will kind of give you a better idea of how that could look in writing, and maybe it'll spark something in your own. As you can see, ChatGPT comes up with some strange verbiage, but at least it gives you a little bit of an idea of what to do. So they're shifting the focus, they're redirecting the blame, they're denying the involvement, and you can just kind of go through how your character would actually do these things. And I think it's really helpful. Let me know if you think that extra little tidbit was helpful in the comments. Super helpful for me to know what you guys like seeing. Another thing you could use ChatGPT for is to help you create more descriptions, whether it's a person or a setting. For instance, I know a lot of authors will like fan cast celebrities for their book characters. So if I wanted Henry Cavill as, that's what I'm picturing, how do I describe the specimen that is Henry Cavill? Please, sometimes you have to be nice to the robot overlords. Please describe Henry Cavill's facial features in great detail, from nose shape to skin tone, include eye shape, and like whatever you want, really. You can just ask it like anything, other defining details. You don't have to get specific. Oh god, I spelled Henry's name right. Thank you, me. Okay, there was an issue. Okay, so if we want our character to look like Henry Cavill, you could describe them as having a straight nose with a subtle defined bridge that gently slopes down. You can get specific. You don't have to get that specific in your writing for describing characters, but you could, like piercing shade of blue, intense or mesmerizing, they're almond shaped, so it just gives you an idea of how to describe facial features if you're not used to those types of words and language. The last thing that you can do, or that I would recommend doing in ChatGPT, is once you have finished your book, if you are publishing and you have to market, you need comp titles. So when you're looking for comp titles, I typically will look at books and other forms of media, so movies, TV shows, video games even. But here's a little pitch that I wrote about my book, and I want 10 comp titles to other forms of popular media. And this is just a general pitch that I would give if I was talking to you about it. So we hit enter and we get some comp titles. I have heard it gives Avatar: Last Airbender vibes. I have also heard it gives Game of Thrones and A Court of Thorns and Roses vibes. I have not heard The Witcher, but let's see why it thinks. Love, destiny, and political intrigue. I could see that. There's just certain themes in these books and movies and TV shows that would correspond to my book. So I could use these comp titles to help me market my book, but you also kind of have to be wary of that and set expectations about why you're comping those titles. All right, we're back. I hope these tips were helpful, and if you enjoyed any of them or you want to see more stuff like this, please hit that subscribe button. Do all the YouTube button things. AI is kind of a touchy subject. Here on YouTube, it seems to be embraced a little bit more than I've seen on other platforms, especially on like TikTok and Reels. But I know with those short form platforms, we only get so much of the story, and therefore a lot of fear gets spread around, and there's just a lot of misconception about what AI can be used for, and there's that fear aspect of, could it one day write a book better than me? Or maybe it even can right now, like with AI image generators. Artists are getting worried and scared that AI is just going to completely replace all artists, and I don't believe that's true. I don't want to dismiss anybody's fears around AI. There's a lot of uncharted territory. There are rules that need to be in place. Some of it was unethically sourced and taught. There are so many conversations that can be had around the topic of AI. So like I said, I think AI, especially writing and image generating, should be used as tools, not to replace something that humans want to make. For me personally, even if AI could write a fine-ass book, I enjoy the process of creating. I enjoy the process of writing. I want to write what I want to write. I don't want to put in a full fantasy prompt and then sit back and watch it spit that out. That wouldn't be fun for me. It would take away the human experience of it. So when people come to me and they say, oh, you don't immediately hate AI, how would you feel if it wrote a book for you? And I'd be like, well, other people write books. Other people write crappy books. Other people write way better books than I do. That's not really a legitimate question to me. That's my perspective on it. But if you haven't thought about that way, let me know in the comments. Or if you have kind of a different perspective of like, I understand that it could take jobs or it could change workflow processes, and sometimes that's a bad thing and sometimes it's a good thing. There's pros and cons. We don't need to get into arguments, but if you want to leave like a respectful comment, I am all for that. I know AI has a long road ahead of it and we're just kind of strapped along for the ride, but thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye.